Josh's Order Corner.
That's me.
It is September 21st, and if you know me, you know that today is a day that I will celebrate every single year for the rest of my days. Now, I hear you already over there on your side of the screen saying, Josh, I definitely didn't see the title of this video, so I have no idea what you're talking about. Why is today so important to you? Well, my friends, that is because 78 years ago today, in 1947, Stephen King was born. Now, you might be new to the channel. You might not understand how important his work has been throughout my life. I remember from the earliest of ages seeing my parents' bookshelves lined with Stephen King. I remember going through their VHS tapes and finding Carrie, finding Stand By Me, Creepshow 2. I remember Mick Garris's The Stand miniseries. All of these movies that really influenced me at an early age, probably a little too early. I remember seeing the It miniseries directed by Tommy Lee Wallace and just loving Tim Curry's acting in that movie, the way he brought Pennywise to life. I remember finally picking up copies of those books and reading them. The Shining, The Stand, all of his works that I could take down from my parents' shelf. And that's continued throughout my entire life. Stephen King has been a constant from the earliest times I can remember till now. Now, if you've been on my channel for a while, you know that I've done plenty of videos about things Stephen King. And last year I did my top 5 favorite collectibles of Stephen King. I want to do something a little bit different this year. In honor of Stephen King's birthday, instead of focusing on him, I want to focus on his family. I want to focus on the authors that live in his household or, grew up with him. So Tabitha King, Owen King, and Joe Hill, we're going to talk about them. And if you stick around at the very end of this video, or I guess you could fast forward, we're going to open this. This is the newest addition to my Stephen King collection, and I can't believe I haven't ripped it open already. I'm so excited to see what this looks like. Now, before we get into his family, let's talk about Stephen King very briefly. I'm not going to say anything groundbreaking. These are things that are well known and understood. 59 Stephen King novels, 7 Richard Bachman novels, 11 short story collections, and that was just a quick look. I may have missed some things here and there. It's really hard to say. It's really hard to keep track of Stephen King's work. But we know it all started in 1974 with his first release, Carrie, right here. And we owe it all to Tabitha King for taking this out of the trash can and making sure it was released to see the light of day. This wasn't the first thing that he ever wrote. Stephen King had been working on his writing for years, since he was a teenager, a preteen even. He'd been trying to write, sharing stories. If you saw the recent movie The Long Walk, that's based on a Richard Bachman novel that was written even before Carrie. So way back in 1974, all the way to this year when this was released. This is Hansel and Gretel. This is Stephen King's retelling of that grim fable. And this is set with art by Maurice Sendak in this beautiful collection right here. Now, this wasn't his only release this year. We also saw the newest addition to the Holly Gibney series, the Mercedes trilogy, really kick things off for her character, and she continues with Never Flinch. This was released earlier this year. It was a fantastic book. And while I wouldn't say I'm tired of Holly Gibney or I'm tired of the universe he's created in these stories, I am looking forward to what he's teasing next, which is the third installment to the Talisman series that he started with Peter Straub. Rest in peace, Peter Straub. This one Stephen King is going to be taking on his own. But you have the Talisman, you have Black House, and now you're going to have this new edition. And who knows? Maybe there's still a little bit of Dark Tower left in Stephen King. I'm going to show this off. I have not put this in any videos yet. So right here we have the Stephen King audiobook. It is read by him. It is signed by him. I love the Dark Tower series. I would love to see more with it. All things serve the beam. Maybe that storyline has dried up and we won't have anything else from it. But that journey and that story of the tower, if you haven't experienced it, that's exactly what it is. It's an experience. Now, let me make one point here. We're going to talk about the creative works that I have in my possession, in my collection. Now, I might talk a little about some of the things that are out there that I don't have, but the primary focus will be the items that I have. So Please forgive me if I leave something out, if I don't talk enough about Lock and Key or certain pieces of Owen or Tabitha's work that aren't in my possession. We're just going to focus on the pieces I can show you today. Let's go back 20 years and talk about Joe Hill and his first works. This mask right here may look familiar to some. It is available at Walmart this year, this nice version of it. This comes from The Black Phone, which is a story from this collection right here. 20th Century Ghosts. Like I said, it's celebrating its 20-year anniversary, and this is really what got Joe Hill started. Now, I was somehow late to the game on Joe Hill. I didn't start reading him until a bit after that book had been out in circulation. This year, this anniversary edition of this novel was released. Here we have the 20th anniversary edition of Joe Hill's 20th Century Ghost. It is signed, it has a nice quote in there from the author himself. This collection contains the stories Abraham's Boys, which was a movie this year, The Black Phone, which came out a couple years back, and the sequel comes out this year, has The Cape, The Widow's Breakfast. It is a great collection of stories from Joe Hill, and it really kicked off his career in the right way. Now, after this was released in 2007, we had this right here, which is Heart Shaped Box. This tells a very interesting story, and it starts to show you where Joe Hill has some of the similar kind of creepy elements to his father. There are even, some may say, some ties to Stephen King's work in this novel. In 2010, Joe Hill was back, this time with Horns. This was a fantastic book. This was also turned into a movie starring Daniel Radcliffe. Now, this was about someone who wakes up with horns. All of a sudden, they're sprouting out of his head after the death of his beloved. And it really is a love story in disguise. Highly encourage you to check this out. The movie was all right. It was all right, but the book was absolutely better. We also have in our collection one of my pride and joys, this right here. This was released in, I believe, 2024. It's a Levidian proof copy of Joe Hill's Horns. So before the book was released, they had to do a nice little mock-up of what it was going to look like. And like I said, this is a piece that I'm so stoked to have in my collection. It is the proof copy of Joe Hill's Horns for Levidian Press. Now, it wouldn't be long until we had another serving of Joe Hill. That would be this right here. This is Nosferatu. It came out in 2013. It introduces the character Charlie Manx in Christmas Land. This was turned into a series on AMC. Maybe you have seen it. I personally have not. I loved the story, and I didn't want a TV show to ruin it for me. If you're a fan of Nosferatu, make sure you check out Wrath. This is a graphic novel that really kind of tells the story of Charlie Manx, who he is, where he came from, and all about Christmas Land. This was released in 2014. Another one of my favorite pieces of my collection related to Joe Hill is this right here. This is an advanced reader's copy of 2016's The Fireman. The Fireman was one that I was nervous about because it felt like Joe Hill was going to take almost the Stand kind of direction with his writing. I will say I was not disappointed at all. This is my first edition copy of this book. You may notice that sticker on there. This is a signed first edition. And there we have Joe Hill's signature. This was an amazing book. I need to reread it. I haven't read it since it came out, but this is one that really impressed me and cemented me as a fan of his work. He went back into his short story collections with this right here. This is Strange Weather from 2017. And we also had Full Throttle. This is another, the Strange Weather is a first edition. This is another first edition, signed edition of Full Throttle that was released in 2019. Now, his short stories, there's a lot of talent in there. If you've watched my channel, you know that I can be a bit critical of short stories because I truly feel that there is a specific talent and a specific gift involved in telling a short story. Joe Hill has it. He picked it up from his dad. He learned it on his own. Who knows? But Joe Hill is just as capable of telling short stories as his father. So right there, that's 16 pounds of Joe Hill. He has another one coming out this year. It is called King's Sorrow. It sounds like it's going to be an epic, epic read about a dragon that gets pulled into our world. I will say that the fantasy elements that get sprinkled in throughout even Stephen King's work have kind of scared me in the past. I'm not a big fantasy guy, but when it came to Eye of the Dragon, when it came to Fairy Tale, when it came to the Dark Tower series, Stephen King was able to make me appreciate those elements of fantasy, and I expect Joe Hill would do the same. Now, while he is working on these novels, he has also been working on graphic novels, including the Lock and Key stories. Here we have a nice key to Christmas Land, tying the two together, tying Nosferatu to his Lock and Key series. We also have a celebration of his works that was released by Cemetery Dance. This came out in 2016. It is signed by Richard Chismar. Now, I will say, when I got a hold of this and got it in my collection, and I saw his signature was in there, I was very excited because I was early in collecting. And I thought it was Joe Hill's. I reached out and I was told by Cemetery Dance, oh yeah, totally Joe Hill's. It's not. It's Richard Chismar's signature, which is great. I appreciate Richard Chismar and his work as well. So it is an awesome addition to the collection. I don't know if I could have gone through that any faster than I did, and I hope you appreciate that discussion or that sharing of Joe Hill's work up until now. Next, let's go ahead and talk about Owen King. Now, while Joe Hill does kind of feel more like reading Stephen King, you can see where he really connects with his dad in that writing process. I would say Owen King really aligns more with Tabitha King's work. So his journey into writing and the way that he presents his characters feels more like reading something from Tabitha. But that didn't stop them from working together. I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll talk about that in just a second. So, Owen King started his writing in, I would say, the early 2010s. Now, like I said, I'm not going to talk about much outside of my collection, but I will tell you about 2013's double feature. This is the first one I read from Owen King. He is a graduate of Vassar College. He recently did a convention appearance, and I would have loved to have met him. I actually have this signed book plate in here from the Overlook Connection bookstore. This was a fantastic book. It was a little slower than what you might expect from Stephen or Joe, but it does stand on its own, and it is a fantastic read. A favorite thing about this story is he manages to bring in a real life figure, you could say, in Hollywood and special effects as a character of the book, and I absolutely loved that. Now, we also have this right here. This is a special edition of Double Feature from Owen King. This is the this is one of my favorite things in my collection, simply because supposedly it's limited to 500 copies, but this is number 605, and it is signed by Owen King and Scott Snyder. I finally got an answer on why this was 605 out of 500. It turned out they decided to do more copies of it and had already printed that page. So they just continued signing and continued numbering. I love that. Again, this is a great read. I highly encourage you, but be prepared. It may feel a little dry. So after 2013's, we had this right here that I would dig out from the bottom because I put these in the wrong order. Sleeping Beauties by Owen King and Stephen King. They came together to work on this novel together. You get what I'm saying, right? I loved this book. This novel tells the story of the near future. It's so real and near it might be now. It is about one woman, the mysterious Eve Black, who's immune to a blessing or curse of the sleeping disease. Having them work together on a book, I think, is incredible. I think it was a really cool way to get his name out to a wider audience and also show this father and son duo and what they do best, and that is write and entertain. So definitely check this one out. There are graphic novel versions of it as well. I have not read those. I'm not big on graphic novels, but I digress. 2020, we have this right here. This is The Little Book of Greebles. This is one I found on eBay. It is out of 500 copies. This is copy 219. It was just a fun addition to the collection. I did enjoy it. There was some great short stories in here. It had fiction, reviews, introductions, and essays. Familiar Voice was fantastic. Regional theater was great. The Heiress was awesome. This was a really fun read. I will be honest. This one right here, I'm not going to say something bad about it. You probably thought I was going to. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. This was released in 2023. This is The Curator, again, by Owen King. I'm going to crack it open here. This is another signed edition. That looks like a stamp. I honestly haven't compared it to any other ones, but it's got to be. I think he did those stamps himself as he was signing. But I haven't read this one yet, so I really don't know what to expect. It says Owen King is a magician by Lauren Groff. That is the quote there on the cover. I am excited to check it out. It'll happen as soon as possible. And then finally released this year is what we have in our hands, Self-Help. I know I just said I'm not a big fan of graphic novels. This one was fun, but honestly, I picked it up because it was a signed edition from Owen King. So there you have it. Now, I did weigh these to tell you, based on all of these, we talked about how we had, 16 pounds of Joe Hill. Right here, we have, clear it out, we have 7 pounds of Owen King. Let's talk about Tabitha next. Of these three, I have the fewest from Tabitha in my collection. I'm not proud of that, but it is what it is. So we had 16 pounds of Joe Hill, we had 7 pounds of Owen King, and here we have 5 pounds of Tabitha King, starting with 1981's Small World. This is for Dolly, it was lust for revenge. For Roger, it was just lust. I have not read this one yet, and I really, really want to. This was her debut. I have only seen this in the wild twice. This copy I have in my hand that I scored on eBay, and then I was walking through Half Price Books once, and I saw, before I bought this, I saw someone pull this off the shelf. And I was like, that is mine. It is going home with me, but they must have known what gold it was because they left with it. And I want to know that person. We need to be friends because they knew immediately this was something they had to take home. So that's Small World by Tabitha King. Next up, we have this beautiful copy of Caretakers. This is a Cemetery Dance exclusive. This was originally released in 1983. Now, with this being Cemetery Dance, we're going to have this beautiful signature page. This was out of 750 copies, number 557, signed by Tabitha King. I always wondered who does the numbering. Does Tabitha King or whoever's signing, do they do the numbering as they go? I doubt it. Caretakers, by all rights, they never should have known each other. Tori Christopher was a member of the elite in Maine, reckless and willful. Joe Nevers was of the working class. This is a heartbreaking story. I love this book so much. Joe Nevers was a fantastic character, as was Tori Christopher. Highly encourage you to check this one out. This is not Stephen King, so do not read this expecting the creepy worlds of Stephen King. Read it understanding you're going to get something a little more tame, but also beautiful. Now, that wasn't the last of her work. Like I said, I don't have all of her work, but we're going to talk more. 1985, we have this right here, The Trap. This one actually has her author photo on the back. I believe that there was Pearl, The Trap, and Caretakers that all kind of tie together, but I could be wrong. Olivia and Pat appear to be the perfect couple. They are young, seemingly devoted, with 2 beautiful children and fulfilling careers. This one is on my shelf, but just like Small World, I have not read this one just yet. I apologize. Now, this one right here was a really fun find for a couple of reasons. I found it on eBay, and when it was delivered, I looked at the return address, and it was from Bev frickin' Vincent. Bev Vincent is very well known to Stephen King fans, and actually he wrote one of the new short stories in The End of the World as We Know It, a collection of stories that revolve around Stephen King's The Stand. This right here is Chalours. It was released in 1994, but what it is the French version of The Trap. I don't speak French, but this was such a unique and exciting find on eBay that I could not turn it down. And again, just like we saw with the Caretakers, this is also signed by Mrs. Tabitha King from April 7th, 2008. So this was one that I could not pass up. I was very, very excited when I saw this. And again, having it come from Bev Vincent was awesome. Now, maybe you recall like 40 hours ago when I hinted at this box right here. This is another eBay find that I was very, very excited for because I've been looking for this for a while. And if you're not familiar with my channel, congratulations, you get to witness me play with a knife for a traditional unboxing portion of these festivities. Very well packaged. We love and appreciate that. I'm so excited. What is this? There's a card. So the best part of my business is you. You know, I gotta say this. Thank you so much. There are stickers. Thank you for your purchase and for supporting my small business. I hope Small World, spoiler, brightens your day. No, that's cool. That's cool. I will absolutely make sure to give this small business a glowing review. What we have here is a special cemetery dance version of Small World. So it's a different cover. I honestly don't know what that is, but it's a different cover. Now, this one, oh man, it's so beautiful. I love Cemetery Dance releases. And here it is limited to 750 copies, and again, signed by Tabitha King herself. One that I had to have in the collection. It is in excellent condition. Oh my goodness. What was the name of this company? Mary Brady, and her business is called Weepy Willows Vintage Collections. Write that down, kids. This is one that is going to have to climb up my to be read list because I really want to experience this book. And now I have 2 copies of it, so I really don't have an excuse not to. Like I said, this video is in honor of Stephen King's birthday. But there's more to Stephen King than just his work, his thousands, maybe millions of pages of writing, his career that has expanded all of these years, that we've seen releases from 1974 all the way to 2025, and we're still expecting some. His health isn't getting any better. He is not getting any younger. He's recently talked about how he's forgetting things. And that is the most terrifying thing, no matter who you are. But when your career is based on your mind and your creativity, that has to be even more terrifying. I will be in shambles when Stephen King is no longer with us. But the thing we have to remember is his work will always be there. Not just his, but his legacy is carried on through his children. And I love seeing the influence that Tabitha's work has seemed to have on Owen, just as much as I love to see the influence that Stevens has had on Joe. You can only imagine how many stories are unfinished, how many things are in that warehouse or that vault or wherever that Stephen King keeps things he started. There's even rumors that Richard Bachman wasn't his only synonym. There might be other books out there written by Stephen King. I'm not completely convinced that Bentley Little isn't Stephen King. We have so much of his work to enjoy, and if there are pieces out there that would need to be finished, we have Owen and we have Joe that can work together to make that happen. I hope that this journey through not Stephen King's work, but the work of his family was enjoyable. I hope that you've read some of these books, and if you've read ones that I have yet to read, I hope you share that experience with me. I just wanted to say a huge happy birthday to Stephen King. Will he see this? I mean, I doubt it, but 78 years is an accomplishment, and all of the works and all of the adventures that his characters have gone on, and I've had the privilege of going on those adventures with them. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Stephen King. And until next time, be good to each other.
Do 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 do